Hey POC fam, happy Tuesday afternoon. For those of you who may not know me or you may just be joining into one of our Connect groups for the very first time, my name is Sheldon Pryor, and for the past several months, we've been doing a series of Connect group devotionals here at the Pentecostals of Orange County, and I have another edition for you today. We live in a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. We live in an hour of great chaos, great division, great violence and anger. There are riots surrounding us, cities establishing curfews in an effort to quell the mayhem, states just barely beginning to reopen after months of shelter-in-place orders in the middle of this pandemic, natural disasters severely impacting communities within our own borders. We live in an unusual day, a day that none of us saw coming in the middle of 2020. Yet the Bible is very clear that the way of a wise man in times of great calamity and uncertainty is peace. The way of a wise man is to walk in peace. Proverbs 3:13 and 18 says, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are of pleasantness, and all," let's say it again, "all her paths are peace." We see wisdom is peace in the middle of the storm. Wisdom is a calm voice in uncertain times. Wisdom is a steady course of action in dynamic circumstances. Wisdom is quiet authority in the face of loud uproar. Wisdom is something that you and I must absolutely seek in the day that we live in. Erwin McManus says this: "The warrior is not ready for battle until he has come to know peace." We are called, we are positioned to be frontline warriors in the hearts of our communities. We are called to be peacemakers in uncertain times. King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, found an example of wisdom so great that it captivated even him. In his annals known as Ecclesiastes, he writes in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 13 through 18, "This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city." Note that it wasn't a grand city. Note that it wasn't the most fortified or prepared city. It was a little city, and few men within it. And there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. Then said I, Wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised." Oh, how we live in that same world today. It seems that so many despise wisdom. They neglect wisdom. And his words are not heard. The words of wise men are heard in quiet more than the city of cry that ruleth among fools, more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. Imagine in that little city with few men, the failed attempts of those young men who had trained their entire life to protect the city and the inhabitants within it. Imagine the wailing cry of childless mothers and weeping widows as the bodies of those valiant men of that small city laid strewn across the city. The strength of those men laid across the streets. Yet there lived in that same city a man who was poor but wise. It was not the strength of that wise man that saved the city, but it was his wisdom. It was not by the hands of a man skilled in disciplines of warfare that the city was saved, but by the strength of wisdom. History would tell us that this is impossible. Rational thinking would tell us that this is not reasonable. Yet God is trying to teach us here that you can do more with one wise man than 1,000 fools. For the Hebrews, wisdom was not an option. It was necessary for survival. Often their Roman captors would strike or slap them in an effort to elicit an angry response. If any Hebrew were so bold and hit their captor back, it would have cost them their life. Likewise, wisdom is not an option for you and I today. We must learn to practice wisdom in every area of our life. We must learn to practice wisdom in our jobs, practice wisdom in our daily walk, practice wisdom in our decisions and thinking. It's not easy to be the voice of wisdom when everything inside you wants to scream out in anger. It's not easy to be the voice of wisdom when your morals and values are being challenged. It's not easy to be the voice of wisdom when our human nature turns on our spiritual discipline. It's not easy to be the voice of wisdom, but don't get it wrong. It is necessary. Many of the most recognized military commanders in the world, men like Caesar Augustus, Cromwell, Napoleon, Lenin, are known for their usurping of power and ruthless hold on the keys of authority until their death. Yet there is one man in history that we do not remember for his violent reign and wicked conquests. George Washington was once described as the virtuoso of resignations. Washington not only resigned at the end of the Revolutionary War when he resigned his military commission and returned to Mount Vernon, Washington would also resign at the end of his second term as President of the United States, when he refused calls for him to seek a third term. It is recorded that King George III asked his American painter what Washington would do after winning independence. Benjamin West replied, "They say he will return to his farm." If he does that, King George III responded, he will be the greatest man in the world. And so we know Washington became the greatest man in the world. So notable was this act that it set a standard for the American presidency that would last until Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose taste for power was stronger than 150 years of precedent set by Washington. It is our strength and wisdom that wins the battle over human ambition. Washington realized that power and authority fades, but wisdom stands the test of time. Proverbs 8:11 says, "For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to wisdom." Power, it doesn't compare to wisdom. Money, it doesn't compare to wisdom. Fame, it doesn't compare to wisdom. A life of luxury, it doesn't compare to wisdom. I'm not saying that you can't have all of those things. I'm not saying that all of those things are necessarily wrong in some circumstances. But I am saying this: be careful that you are not paying for them at the price of your wisdom. You will either go down in history for the blood that you spilled, the people that you stepped over, the relationships that you broke, or you will be remembered for the hard choices that you made. Choices dictated not by fleshly desire, but by spiritual wisdom. Going back to the story of the poor wise man in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, it was not the greatest city. It was not the most fortified city. It was not a city noted for its riches and great conquests. Yet within that one impoverished city stood a single wise man. And one wise man saved the city. Wisdom is walking the streets today. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she crieth her words. I have a question. Who will answer? We need some wise men and women who would realize that they have the power to bring peace into their communities. And oh, how we need peace in this hour. That they have the power to bring peace into their jobs, peace into their families. I wish that my generation would seek to be a generation known for our wisdom in times of trial and uncertainty. It's not going to get easier. We're not going to find brighter days. There's always going to be a trial. There's always going to be something that tests you and I in the day. I'm not saying that we can't have peace in the middle of the storm, but I am saying that we better be prepared because we are in the end times. If one wise man could save a city, one wise church could save their community, and one wise generation could save the world, let our prayer be that we would be known for our wisdom, that we would be known for the peace that we brought into the world. Let our greatest desire be to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. I want to close with 3 questions today. My first question is this: what is the cost? What is the penalty of a life without wisdom? My second question: what are some areas in your life that you need to seek for wisdom in? And my last question is this: in your opinion, what does it mean to know wisdom and instruction like Proverbs 1 and 2 speaks about? I hope that this devotion has impacted you in some small way today. I hope that you are able to join us in our Connect groups this week. And I look forward to seeing you on June 14th for our relaunch Sunday. God bless you. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you soon.